Welcome back to the Imperfectionist Podcast. My name is David Rendall, and I'm really excited about our special guest today, Henry Ward. A number of years ago, I did my first 50-mile race at Bald Head Island. It was called Badwater Cape Fear, put on by the same people that do Badwater 135 out in Death Valley. And this one wasn't 135, it was 51.4, and it was on the beach in Bald Head Island, which is tough to run on the sand like that, and it was my first 50-miler. And at the end of that race, I made friends with a bunch of people on Facebook and stuff like that, and who had done the race as well, and one of them was Henry Ward, and he was living out in Phoenix at the time, and I travel all over the country speaking. And next time I was out in Phoenix, we did some running, we did some hiking, we ate some tacos, and it just turned into a thing. And I love what Henry is up to. And Henry and I have just developed a great friendship over the course of, what is it, Henry? Was that like 2017 or 2016?
It was 2016.
2016, so it was a long time ago, almost 9 years. So, you know, Henry and I are old, so 9 years feels like the other day we met, right? But it was 9 years ago. So let me tell you the most important thing to know about Henry, or not the most important thing, but the thing that shows you how extraordinary he is and why I brought him on. Henry does a thing called the Boston Quad. Now, the Boston Marathon is very difficult to qualify for. At every age group, even into the 60s and 70s, you have to have what's called a qualifying time, and it's very fast. You would be surprised at how fast you have to run it. For example, my daughter and I just ran a marathon last weekend. Two of my daughters and one of their boyfriends, we ran a marathon, and it was three of them. It was their first marathon. I did it with my daughter. She wanted me to run with her. We did it in like 5:45. My other daughter did it just under 5. And the boyfriend did it in about 4 hours and 40 minutes. Henry, to qualify for the Boston Marathon, how fast does a 40-year-old, 50-year-old have to run the race?
A 40-year-old has to run, I believe it's 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Right,
but you need
3:15.
You need to be under that because so many people apply.
And then so many people qualify that even when you have a qualifying time, you don't qualify, right? So Boston Marathon, it's not like the other marathons. You don't lottery win it. You don't. You have to get in by being fit enough to run them. So that's what makes it prestigious. So in 3 hours, 15-minute pace, that's like, is that like 7 minutes, Henry? 7 minutes a mile, or what is that? What is that pace?
I think it's right around 7:25.
Yeah, 7:25.
But it's right around there.
Yeah, which is like about as fast as I can run a mile, right? So Henry qualifies for the Boston Marathon. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. Then Henry does something called the Boston Quad, and quad means 4, right? So what Henry does is he goes, early to the race, very early to the race. How early do you have to get there, Henry, to do your thing?
I typically start, like the Boston Marathon starts about 10 a.m. on Monday morning on Patriots Day, April, the third week in April. And I start Sunday at noon, the day before, in essence.
Yeah, so Henry goes to the finish line on Sunday at noon, and he runs from the finish line to the start line of the race on the race course, right? So he's run 26.2 miles. Then he goes from the start line to the finish line, and now he's run 52.4 miles. And then he runs from the finish line to the start line, and now he's run 78.6 miles. Am I still doing good on the math?
That's correct. Yeah.
Then he gets there in time to run the race with everybody else, and then you run the race in a respectable time. Like, what was your time the last time? I thought it was in the 3s.
I do the same thing for the Mesa Marathon out here in Arizona.
Yeah.
My last year, my best time was 3:36 and change. 3 hours.
So
36 minutes.
at the end of 104.8, is that what it ends up being? 104.8? I think that's what it is.
It depends on how many bathroom breaks or trips into Chick-fil-A.
So it's even longer, but officially.
Let's just say 106.
Yeah, 104.8. Yeah, plus that's right when you do an ultra. So Henry's running 104.8 miles. So just imagine doing 104.8 miles. So what I want you to find out about today is, how does Henry do that? What makes Henry interesting and special, and obviously that makes him interesting and special, but what makes him, an imperfectionist? What makes him a great story for this podcast? So with that as an intro, Henry, tell him a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you come from? And how did you end up doing ultra marathons? Because again, for some people, a marathon's the biggest thing they could ever imagine accomplishing, and you just casually run 4 of them back to back to back to back at one of the most prestigious marathons in the world.
Okay, so the introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Henry Ward, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. Oh, sorry, wrong room. No, it might be the right room for some people.
No, that's perfect for this. That's perfect for this one, the Imperfectionist. Yeah.
Everybody knows, that alcoholism and addiction runs rampant, and everybody knows somebody or more than one person that's close to them that is an alcoholic. And I grew up in an alcoholic household, alcoholic society. I put off my alcoholism. I put off my drinking career until I was about a junior in high school. And then curiosity got the best of me. And, I didn't like what it did to people that were close to me. It changed them, changed their personality. And quite frankly, they weren't present when they were under the influence. And then, so I decided to start drinking. And the first time I started drinking, I got absolutely hammered. And pretty much every time after that, and there was always the regret, the remorse, and I couldn't drink like anybody else. In retrospect, I should have seen that coming. I was addicted to collecting baseball cards, to candy, to pizza, to, everything was more and more and more. Large ice cream, I'd be getting a cold headache and I'd still want more. I'd finish it and be like, man.
Hey, back off on the ice cream. That hits too close to home and I do not appreciate that.
I am not bashing ice cream. I'm just saying, like, I finished it.
No,
I
get it.
Man, I am depressed. I am sad. So the same thing would happen with alcohol, right? And alcohol is more addicting than the ice cream, maybe. So I grew up that way, and I can get into the recovery piece a little bit later. But I found running later in my life. My son, who's now 13, was in 2011 was in my wife's belly, and we were trying to. This weird period of my life, and we're trying to get an image of him in ultrasound. And he's doing backflips, so he could never get a picture. And I had like a holy crap moment, like, oh my God, like I haven't really done much. I walk a little bit. I haven't been to the gym. I haven't rollerbladed. I haven't been doing any sports or anything like that in a while. I want to be able to keep up with them. I want to be an active dad. Yeah. And so I started walking more distance. And then, I had this weird idea. If I could run, I could go further and I could get there faster. And I tried. I hated it. But I kind of liked the way it made me feel, despite like the heavy breathing and the shin splints and the cramps and everything else. And
let's stop there for a second, because I think that's something people miss. When you run, it flushes your body with chemicals that make your body feel good. And so there's these 2 parallel things happening. There's sort of the physical, muscular, cardiovascular, the stuff everybody describes as pain. But there is a pleasurable component to it. And since the one seems so obvious and so kind of visceral, I know, and people like this, when runners get injured, when hardcore athletes get injured, they're miserable sitting around at home. They act like it's all this discipline that takes them out to exercise, but it's also the chemicals, right? It is a buzz. It is a high to go do some of that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people miss that, right? And even if it's just psychological, the way it feels to be outside, the way it feels to be moving, the way it feels to be in nature, the way it feels to accomplish things, whatever it happens to be, that's a powerful drug.
And you know what? Since I'm in recovery, if that's the only thing that I'm doing for recovery, if that running gets taken away from me, I'm in a lot of trouble. I better have other things that fill up my heart, in my activities. But how running started. We were going out to Corning, New York, out in Western New York, to visit a friend who had changed his life by running. He had quit smoking. He started a Snap Fitness gym, 24-hour gym, and he had run a couple half marathons. And so I simply asked him, hey, we're coming out for the Glass Fest, like Corning Glass. I noticed there's an 8K race. Are you running? I simply asked that question. He said something like, I will if you do. Like, I don't even run. But You know what?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for a little bit. And the marathon bombing was that same year, the Boston Marathon bombing, where they had some explosives at the finish line. So
Yeah.
I had this idea, like, let's unite against these local terrorists. I'll be a runner. And again, I ran a few times, I was basically sprinting with my son in the stroller and completely gassed. So anyway, so I trained twice for this thing. I sign up, I register, and I don't even know how far an 8K. I'm like, I think kilometers or more, but like, I hope it's not like, 8K. I hope it's not like 12 or 13 miles. I just don't know. And I'm afraid
I
to
always tell people the only people who know kilometers from the U.S. are runners. The only people who can go to like Europe and figure out a K, they go, okay, so it's like 60K to get there. Okay, so a 5K is 3 miles. Then that's 12 5Ks. That's 36. Like that's how a runner, but then like you said, like a regular American's just going to go, I don't know what that is. That sounds far or something. I don't know what a K is.
I checked right before the race and it was 5.3. I'm like, I have that going for me. Okay, I think I can do this. I ran 4 miles / walked with the stroller and there was some hills involved. I can do this. So we go out there. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's 40 degrees out with 40-mile-an-hour headwinds. We're going over bridges. I'm getting knocked around. So the beginning, the first 30 seconds were awesome. And I went through the whole spectrum of emotions in that 5.3 miles. 30 seconds into the thing, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. I hate this. I literally wanted to like smash people with the stroller. I was super disappointed because the training runs I had, my son was kicking his feet. He was having a good time too. I finally found something to fill that void inside of me. I still had a void from the addiction. And, I wanted to quit. Like the pain was real. The struggle was real. A lot of it was mental too. Like I feel like I wasn't totally out of shape. I've always been athletic, but a lot of it was mental. And I got to the halfway point. I'm like, I might as well just follow the rest of these idiots, and I'm never running again. I don't care what, I'm never doing this again. And then I saw my wife and I saw our friend towards the finish line. I'm like, all right, I can finish this. So I started, there's a camera. I start running faster. Little did I know, I get to the track. I'm like, all right, there's the finish line. They make you go all the way around the track.
Yeah, you're not done yet.
I just sprinted too soon and I was completely winded. So I was stricken to a halt and I walked for, 20 seconds and it was kind of like, screw this. And I just finished. And then I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. I had like won a gold medal or something, I was really proud of myself. And I started thinking along the way, especially towards the end, like, you can do hard things. Like I've been through worse. 22 years of active addiction. I had some really hard days and really hard nights. I got through that. I can do this. So I kind of found I call it like my superpower. That was my imperfection. And I got a glass medallion. People say, what race are you most proud of? It was probably that one because I didn't quit. And then, we went out for breakfast and I asked my friend if I could use his computer. He's like, do you want to check your fantasy baseball team to see how your Brewers players are doing or whatever, your baseball team. I said, yeah, well but I want to see if there's any running races back in Massachusetts where we're living. And my wife's like, you sure you don't want to go to like the ER? Like you look pretty wrecked. And I checked it. Yeah, like something, you're not walking too well and your heart rate's probably at 180. No, I look and there's a race the next weekend and like, can I sign up? She's like, are you like, what are you like hooked on this now? Just joking. And I'm like, I like the endorphins are kicking and the dopamine still like, I really like how I feel now. And if I train more, it should get easier. And I started meeting people. They're like, you're running too fast. You're running too hard. You got to learn to pace yourself. You should be able to somewhat hold a conversation. And as soon as I was able to do that, things fell into place and I started enjoying it more. And then, back home where I pretty much destroyed my reputation, destroyed property, ran from the police. I was accepted with open arms in a community that I did that, and I found that there was a lot of other people that had found running and it's changed their lives. They were in addiction, alcoholism addiction, weight loss, anxiety, depression, whatever. Everybody runs for a different reason or different reasons. And all of a sudden I had a whole new group of misfit friends We all agree that
Imperfect friends. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
imperfect friends. And as you escalate up through the distances, you find there's more quirky or misfits or more imperfectionistic friends, people. Um, yeah, and then I decided that people with addiction more. I don't want to say it's never enough. It's a joke about the ice cream, but it's a little bit true. But yeah, no, okay, so half marathon, let's do it. And I thought you could just sign up for the Boston Marathon. I started training with people, a couple of
And you're
my
like, I'm
friends.
from there. Do we actually get a free registration if you're from
I
there?
so like jokingly, I grew up watching the
Yeah.
marathon, and I'm like,
Yeah.
someday I'm gonna run this. It was
Yeah.
something we did. The city shuts down. It's a really cool event. Someday
Yeah.
I'm gonna run this. And then as in my drinking years, I would joke with people at parties or going, and they're like, someday I'm gonna run this, and like, like, yeah, right, whatever. Not the path you're going, bud. And certainly not like that. Um, but deep down inside, something was telling me that I wanted that. I wanted to know how it felt. Yeah, so I was running with I was training like my longer distances with friends that were actually training for Boston. Ran it the year before in the bombing. They were 2 miles from the finish line and didn't finish. So they got a bib for the next year. So,
Yeah.
um, I was getting kind of trained by them, like, yeah, you got to eat something. You got to eat like these little jelly baby food thing, goo packets, you know, M&Ms. Here, have some M&Ms. I'm like, people eat M&Ms while they're running. Like, all right, gummy bears, gummy worms, whatever, Swedish fish. Like, this is pretty cool. So yeah, no, I really like embraced the community, embraced all things running, hit the ground running, did the half marathon. It was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And then I tried to sign up for Boston, but you have to do a qualifying race on the website. And I missed that because I was only running for a few months. And so I said I want to run another marathon. So I started playing around with a couple cities that were drivable. One of them was Pittsburgh, and I went through the whole application process. And it literally was like for Boston, like if you want to run for a charity for Boston, they ask you to raise a lot of money. And I did the application for that, didn't get accepted. And it took 45 minutes. You had to write like an essay on yourself. 45 minutes to complete the application. I did the Pittsburgh one. It was name, address, email, password, shirt size, phone number, emergency contact, something like that. And click. And then next thing you know, it says, congratulations, you're running the 2014 Dick's Sporting Goods Pittsburgh Marathon for charity.
Yeah, if you have
And
a valid credit card, you can run most other
oh,
marathons.
I didn't
You
even
can
need
make
to.
the payment.
I clicked on a charity. I clicked on a charity's website and Urban Impact, and literally like, okay, all I have to do is raise $600. So I stewed on that for like 24 hours, and my wife was like, "What's going on with you? You're squirrely. You're walking around the house like."
Oh, so hold on a second. So that's part of the story. You didn't you signed up for the I'll raise money, therefore you don't pay the entrance fee. So okay,
Correct.
I didn't even know that
And
was an option. Okay, yeah,
I didn't think I was registering. Also, I thought it was just going to go to the next page, and there was something else to complete.
right.
And
Or you'll
so my
find out later if you're accepted or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So more to come, but congratulations for being part of the team. Like, oh my God, like I have to explain this to my wife. So like I didn't know what to say. Like she said, under no circumstances, are you gonna sign up for a marathon? Especially I told her I wanted to do this one, that one, and no, like I was working part-time. I was kind of a stay-at-home dad. She's like, wait till you get a full-time job. And I was like, there's never a right time, a full-time job. I won't be able to take the time off and do it. Doesn't I really want to do it? Blah, 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 blah. I'm doing the training with Randy and Tommy. And so then I had to tell her that I did it by mistake. Like to this day, I don't know that she fully believes me, but that is the honest to goodness truth. But that changed my life. Like I wanted that. I wanted to know how it felt, and I wanted to qualify. So for the first and pretty much only time I followed a training plan, kind of to the T, neurotically. And then I did pretty well, but I didn't qualify. So then I was like obsessed with marathons. Like let's keep running marathons, and let's qualify for Boston. Then it was like, let's do 50 states. Let's do the world marathons. So the world marathons are all the major marathons around the world: Tokyo, London, Berlin, Boston, blah blah blah, New York. So I wanted to do, as many marathons as possible. And my wife's like, pump the brakes. Like, where are we going to get this money? Where are you going to get the time? Da da
Yeah.
da da da. Is this all of a sudden this is going to become your life, your world? And then, so I cut it back a little bit. Like the second year running, I think I ran 8 marathons, and that was pretty reasonable compared to the 20 that I had jotted down that I kind of want to do whatever. And I found out about this. I kept hearing this buzzword, ultra marathon, like, and I asked the question. I
Yeah.
I joined a couple groups or whatever, and started seeing all of my friends had long beards and looking, pretty shaggy. That stereotype. And I'm like, what does I wanted to look it up, but I wanted to ask somebody, what does that mean? They're like, well, it's typically like a 50K and up, which is like 31 miles. Um, but anything more than a traditional 26.2 mile marathon, like, why would anybody want to do, well, wait a minute, more? That sounds right up my alley. There should be a progression, and we should push ourselves. We should strive to do more. It doesn't matter. Try to be a better person, try to get a promotion at work, try to get a better job, better, 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 more, more, more.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I want to know what that feels like. That looks pretty cool. So I started like virtually and like on social media following some of the like David Clark, he was doing Leadville and Badwater
Hmm.
135 and some of the 100 milers or more. Like, okay, 100 miles, that seems crazy, but doable. 135 miles in Death Valley, like in the middle of the summer with no crew, like, no, I would never want to do that. Um, but anyways, no, I did a 54 miler. It was in New Hampshire. Wasn't too far away from home. It was free. It was put out there by mistake. And he just he put a route on Ultra Sign Up, and said it'd be cool to run from the baseball stadium in downtown Manchester and then up and over Mount Monadnock. It was called M2M. And I finished it. It was really hard. It took me like 14 hours. And you know, each time you do a distance, it changes you a little bit. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn you always have more inside of you, despite wanting to quit many times. Even the marathons too, but first ultra marathon, I was able to go to the well again and use my superpower. You've been through worse. You signed up for this. You said you enjoy doing this. You said you want to do it. Just finish it. And then my second one, I had a hard time. And then the Badwater Cape Fear it was a game changer for me. It just, I don't know, everything clicked. I really learned how to pace myself by then. Mentally, I was so much stronger. Like each time you do something, and recover mentally and physically, including from like those races, and kind of soak up what went wrong and learning from it. Um, I don't know. I was able to, I don't want to say I was comfortable in my recovery, but I was really able to stay in the moment and not be overwhelmed by the ginormous mileage, that can creep into your head. Oh my God, we haven't even gotten to the beach yet, and I have 8 miles and my legs are already bothering me, and I've got a blister and my stomach's hurt. You start body sensing and start getting all that negativity in your head, and it's good enough reason for a lot of people to quit, And I remember your video was like super windy on the beach,
Yeah,
like
so let me set the
60.
stage here for Badwater Cape Fear. It's on a place called Bald Head Island, which is in the Atlantic Ocean. It's an island, that's why it's called that, off the coast of Wilmington, but significantly off the coast. The only way to get there is by ferry. You can't take your car. The people who live there, and there aren't very many of them, drive golf carts. It's basically like this little community. And it's just completely exposed. It's out in the ocean. And so the course went for, it was a 51.4 mile race, or it was a 50K, which is 31 miles. So what everybody did is everybody started with basically a 10-mile loop kind of around the island. And then they just send you 10 miles up the beach and 10 miles back down the beach. And now you've done 31 miles, you've done a 50K. And even if you signed up for the 50 miler, you could stop there and they'd give you an award for finishing the 50K. You could basically bail, and instead of do not finish, they give you a 50K completion. But If you signed up for the 51 and you wanted to do it, you had to run 10 miles straight up the beach and 10 miles back down the beach after already running 31 miles. And it was windy. I'm talking 30, 40, 50 mile an hour gusts. I have video of it where the sand on the beach, you're just watching it like a snowdrift. You're watching the sand just be blown furiously across and piling up. And you're just running through this, and it's just absolutely brutal. And so what most people did is they bailed at the 50K. I was one of the last 4 people to finish. I call it the final 4 to make it sound better. But the reason that was still an accomplishment was it was my first 50-mile race, so that made it an accomplishment. But also, the reason I finished almost last was because anybody who would have been behind me just said no. So Henry's, having a breakthrough, but also in a really, really, tough conditions, a really difficult situation. There was just I remember fantasizing about finding a phone booth. That tells you how old we are. Fantasizing about finding a phone booth and just getting inside and closing the door. Like that's how much the wind was just driving me insane. Like I just couldn't, I just wanted it to be quiet and calm for a minute. It was really wearing me down.
Yeah. Then you're running on the beach. So if you're running on the soft sand, it was like running through like sand in the desert, or snow or something. You run near the water, it was sloped and cambered, and
it was so banked. Your one foot is way above the other, and it's crushing down. And
you have to. The waves are coming in, so you're constantly kind of shifting to the left or to the right to avoid the water. You don't want to get your feet wet. So it was a really hard race, but everything, I don't know, like my mental game, all of a sudden something changed there. I just dialed in and said, it's kind of like, is this all you got? Is this all you got? To Mother Nature. And just keep despite wanting to quit, like, there was definitely opportunities to quit, like that 50K thing, like just keep going. Just keep doing what you're doing. Eventually you'll get there. Each step is closer to the end. And I was able to apply that to other races too, or other events. So, I don't want to say I checked that off the list, but 50 miler I did. I think it was. I've never did a 50K. I did 3 250 mile, 350 milers, 450 milers. I did that M2M twice. And then I decided I wanted to do a 100-miler.
Time to go farther.
Yeah. And so that was later.
I did want to mention real fast before you jump to that. You mentioned David Clark. I've read that book. It's called Out There. So if people are interested, it's called Out There, A Story of Ultra Recovery. So it's the same theme as what Henry and I are talking about. This is somebody who was battling addiction and used extreme running, extreme endurance activities as a recovery method. And like Henry said, the farther you go, the more people you meet who are doing this as a form of almost self-care, which sounds wild, run 50 miles as a form of self-care. But ultra running, what we're going to talk about here, the whole imperfectionist mindset is that things that look like weaknesses might also be strengths. And Henry said it from the beginning, whether it was candy or ice cream, and I was the same way. When I did anything, I did it 100 miles an hour, right? Take you as far as you can go. It's the only thing that you want to do. For me, it wasn't sort of one thing. It was just, it needed to be athletics. I played every sport. I played all the time. When I wasn't playing an official sport, I was playing tennis with my brother. I was playing golf. I was training for cross country. I needed to be moving 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I lived for gym class. I lived for sports practice. And like he said, I was collecting coins, doing other things. When I was into something, I was 100% into it. And so, that's the mindset that most people would say, well, you got to dial it back. You need to do less. You need to get it under control. You need to find moderation. And what a lot of people have discovered is some of us are never going to find moderation. The only thing we're going to find is, can I apply my addictive personality traits to something that's positive instead of negative? Something that builds me up instead of tears me down. Something that inspires others instead of slowly undermining and destroying my own life. And so, that's part of Henry's story. That's part of my story. But David Clark has a book about it, and lots of other people. Who's the lady, the running diva? Her name starts with a C.
Katja.
She dresses in the
Katja
bright pink. Yeah, Katra Corbett. She's got an amazing story. She runs with this little wiener dog. Um, is that the one? Am I doing? Is that the right one?
That's her one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has
So
two wiener dogs. That other
yeah.
one passed away and she has two now. Yep.
And if you ever thought of a dog that doesn't seem designed for running, right? It's the wiener dog. All right. So sorry, I wanted to just to plug that in. So that now you're going 100, and I'm the same way, right? Like I did the marathon, then I did a 40. That was the first one I did was a 40 miler. No, I did do a 50K. And I remember I looked at the sign up and I looked at the results from the last year, and a couple of 60-year-old men and women had done it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can run 40 miles, but if a 65-year-old can do it, then if I trained, I could do it, right? It made it seem possible, right? If the only people that had done it were 23-year-old, cross-country athletes or something, but then, 40, and like you said, then you're just looking at what's the next farthest one? What's the next farthest one? What's the next farthest one? All right, so you're going from 50 to 100. Tell us about that.
So there's a race called Javelina 100, and it's out
Yeah.
here in Arizona the last Saturday of the month of October.
Yeah, so you
So
made the
it's
move at some point from Boston to Phoenix?
correct. So I was still living in Boston,
Oh, okay.
and I nagged my wife for probably 4 months, 5 months. We were kind of in a transitional period of our lives. We had sold our townhouse and stayed with my parents. They said we could stay there for a month or two, or until we figured out where we wanted to live. And where we didn't want to live was someplace cold or um, you know,
Amen to that.
in Massachusetts. But so we're thinking about it. We stayed there a little bit longer than we anticipated originally, and I was eyeing that Javelina 100, and I said, well, there's people we know in Arizona. We lived out there before. We could stay with somebody. We can go out there, have a little vacation. We haven't been out since, I don't know, 2 years ago. Only visited a couple times. It'd be nice to go back there. And I really want to run this 100 miler. So she had me go to the doctors and get, electrocardiogram, get physical, get checked out before I did that, because
Yeah.
there's heart issues in my family. And the ladies at the doctor was like, look, I mean, you run about 100 miles a week, 75 to 100 miles a week. You tell me you've run a couple 50 milers. There's no reason why you can't do this. Your heart's perfectly fine. And so, okay, can I sign up now? Like a little kid. And she said yes. And
You
so
mentioned the ice cream. You are like a little kid with ice cream or candy. So can I have some ice cream now? Can I have
can
some
I,
candy?
yeah,
Can I have some more candy? Can I have some more
please,
ice cream? Like you're,
please, please,
yeah,
please, can we go? Please, can we go? Please, please, please. I got good, look at these flights. Look at these flights. I got a good deal. So,
yeah.
yeah, so we booked the flights. We ended up getting a hotel in Scottsdale, and um, I was a little bit nervous about this. Like, oh my God, 100 miles, doing the math, that's twice as far as 50 miles. How am I going to do
That's some
this? And
intense math, Henry. You really
yeah,
did it there.
so I did the math. I got the calculator. I did the math. Math wasn't my strong suit, but I figured it out. I figured it out. Um, yeah, so I we fly out for the race, and I'm in the expo, and I'm like, oh my God, look at all these people. They look like they've done this before. Look, there's a shirt from last year. Someone else has done it before, and I don't know. I ended up like connecting. I
Right.
saw
They're not
David.
dead.
Yeah, like, so okay,
Yeah.
but like, like I felt like an imposter a little bit too. And then I'm like, screw it. It was somebody's first time, one time last year, before whenever. This is my first time, and I'm in good hands. I saw a few Facebook
Yeah.
friends, and I felt
Yeah.
like I was in this ultra community, and had some conversation with people before that, anyways. Um, and whatever. This is what I want to do. What's the worst thing can happen? So. Speed up to October, we get out there, and yeah, I had the nerves like a marathon, like any other race, and I would argue if you don't have nerves, then you didn't care, you weren't invested in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, start running in the dark, and then the sun starts coming up. Like, this is awesome. Super cool. I'm running around in the desert, basically in the middle of nowhere. There's saguaro cactus everywhere, and running and running. Stop at the first aid station. It's all decorated. People are in costumes. And then the sun came on. The sun started getting warm, and it got up to 106 degrees that day. You can't practice running the heat in Boston in October. So I got cooked. And everything
Oh
hurt.
yeah. It's
So,
also super dry. It's a totally different climate. You're used to wet, humid, cold, like all of those things. It doesn't ever get real low humidity in Boston. You never
it
get
does
that
not.
super dry, so you're getting a totally different climate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we came out a few days earlier to get acclimated, but it was only in the 80s and 80s feel warm. We don't have any shade here. That's the problem. So even if it's 80
Yeah.
or 60 or whatever, people can run into issues. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I somewhat manage the heat well, but 5, 6 o'clock when the sun goes down, you'll be okay. But it was getting to that night. Like every time I got to an aid station, like I could have been I almost talked myself out of continuing, but
Yeah.
I wanted more. I wanted to know what was next. What was next? If I just could get to the next aid station, maybe I'll see somebody I know. Maybe I'll meet a new friend. Maybe I'll see a snake. Maybe I'll see a coyote. I wanted to know what was next because next kept happening. I'd bump into somebody else. I'd bump into this person. I'd try
Yeah.
something different at the aid station. And I was able to tap into that superpower too. Like, this is nothing. You got knee pain, quad pain. You signed up for this. You paid money for this. You flew across country for this. You tucked your wife into this. Shut the hell up and keep going. Just keep going. You want next? Do you want more? Keep going. Like,
Yeah.
I heard somebody speak and they said, her coach or her pacer said, "Can you run 10 steps?" And I didn't hear this. I heard it afterwards, but I said something similar to myself. Just run for like 30 seconds or 20 seconds. Can you do that? Yes. And this is me self-dialogue. Yeah, I could run for 20 seconds. I run. Okay, 20 more. 20 more. And then you're out of your head. You're like, oh my God, I'm running. I never thought I'd be able to run again. Uh, a lot of the time it's nutrition. So when I did that Badwater Cape Fear, I used to survive on like watermelon or just like tailwind, just like liquid calories.
Yeah.
I made a plate at Fisher Point. I made a plate full of food, like literally, and sat there like for 2 minutes and enjoyed a quick little meal. And that gave me like sustainable energy. So, when I started hitting lows, I'm like, maybe it is that nutrition thing. Don't be afraid to try something new. So, half
Well,
a bean
that's
roll up,
Yeah,
keeping
that's
it
what some
little.
people, this isn't an ultra running podcast, but for people who are listening who might be interested, they probably heard it. I mean, one of the things that makes a 100 miler harder than a 50 is, yeah, it's twice as far, but also it's going to happen through the night. And if you're going to sleep, it's going to count against your time. And so you're not going to sleep as much or sleep at all. And so now regular, being sleepy tired versus being physically tired is going to come into it. But also when you start doing ultras, and even when you do a regular marathon, you might be able to get through on some Gatorade and some soft gels and whatever. But once you start doing ultras, you need to eat. You're doing this over a course of multiple days. And that's part of it, training your body and your system to be able to eat and eat consistently and keep taking in calories while you're running. That's an additional challenge. It's not just how far can you run and how fast can you run. It's, can your stomach handle it? Can you eat? Do you know what to eat? How much to eat? Can't overeat. So there's a bunch of additional challenges, but that overnight thing and the eating thing is a big challenge of running farther and farther.
So when it's really, really hot too during the day, it's hard to eat. You're
Hard to
nauseous. It's
eat.
hard.
Yeah.
So, I can kind of tap into the whole recovery thing there too. Like I force myself to do things like to this day, and it's kind of like amplified too, that I don't want to do. Like I don't want to go I don't want to go to the cold plunge. I don't feel like going run. I don't feel like going to this. I don't feel like doing that. And so I quickly question, what's the fear? What are you afraid of? And I
Yeah.
just do it. I try to walk through that door of fear. I don't want to eat. Okay, well, guess what? Stop acting like a child. If you want to continue this thing, you need to eat. You need to figure out how to
Yeah.
get something in your stomach. You need calories, you need energy. So do that. And then typically once you coat your stomach, you got a few things in there, your stomach can come back, and so could your attitude and your energy level. So,
Yeah.
eat and keep going. And then, so I found a way to finish that, tapping into that superpower a couple of different times or 100, whatever. And it was a great accomplishment. I was pretty satisfied with that distance. And I really didn't even know there was anything more than that. So that planted the seed to move back to Arizona. I should leave
Yeah.
it. Before I did that, I did my first Boston Marathon quad, and I hadn't qualified for Boston yet. That was April 2017, but we did make the decision in February of 2017, after having such a great time at Javelina 100 in Arizona, to move back to Arizona. So the plans are already made to move back. Decided like this is going to be kind of like a going away party, So the Boston Quad, the cool thing about that is it attracts a lot of people. Somebody might come out and just say hello. Somebody might run 1 mile. Somebody might run 5 miles. Somebody might run a half marathon or a full marathon with me. So there's always people with me. So
right. There's people coming along, maybe not for the whole thing, but they're coming along for parts of it. Now, hold on a second, though. Like, did you come up with that idea? How did you come up with that idea? I mean, who just decides we're going to do a Boston Quad? Is that something that had existed that somebody else had done? How did that come about?
It's a thing, like it's out there. It's like an ultra thing. In fact, David Rendall did it. I didn't even know that. So I had done a Boston half, like a yo-yo. So I started at like 1 a.m. in the pouring rain, the same day, and ran to the start line. And by the time I got to the start line, you're going uphill. Boston's a downhill course. I was pretty depleted, and I was eating, but not a lot. And so I stuck, at least we're going downhill. And as we were coming back, someone had told me that David Clark did this 4 times, did the same thing twice. And other people have done it. I'm like, holy shit, why would you want to do anything more? And when I had finished, that was all I could do that day. And I was satisfied. I don't care what you say. I would never want to do the 4. I'm just not that runner. I'm not strong enough yet. But the reason when I started, I ended up having a snow day at personal training school, and I decided, all right, I have 6 hours of my time. I went to the Boston Marathon course. I figured I'd run. It was snowing out, whatever. It was safe. I ran on the sidewalk most of the time, and I started thinking about the quad thing, and should I or shouldn't I? I started thinking a little bit more about it. And a 4 of playing cards, like literally like blew in the wind, went over my foot, was like on the snow and like on my foot facing up, like a 4 of spades or whatever. So I held it up. I took a picture of it and posted on Facebook and decided to do it right then. So I pushed through it went from like possible rain to freezing rain to mixed precipitation to snow to major nor'easter. It was, since I didn't qualify, it was 2 weeks before the Boston Marathon on April Fool's Day. And that was arguably the hardest run I ever did. That was the first year of the quad. And then a lot of people couldn't make it out there because of the weather and they were disappointed. So I did one more event. I was raising money for addiction too, for a nonprofit called Run Well. And
so that's an important part of the story. So Henry doesn't just do these runs. He does these runs to raise money for other people who are recovering from addiction. So he's literally using his running addiction to help people battle addiction and also role modeling, a way to turn your life around. And it's a great way to get people's attention because, again, most people running a marathon feels like it's beyond their limits, and Henry's doing it 4 times in a row, as a party.
And I'll tell you,
Henry throws terrible parties, by the way. If you want to hang out with Henry, the party is running 104.8 miles in the snow in Boston.
Eating burritos. And
he's like, but you get to eat along the way, lots of eating, so shut up.
It's eating with 100 miles of running. No, so I liked how it brought the community together, and a lot of people like confided in me and said that, hey, what do you think? I think I might have a problem. If you think you have a problem, you probably do. So I was able to help people one-on-one, and you never know the impact. 3 people might tell you, thank you, changed my life, or thank you, what you said really hit home, but there might be millions others watching that'll never tell you. So big stage, I was a little nervous about that. Like, I originally didn't want to share my story. It was a private thing. It was something that we just shouldn't really talk about. And it was like, wait a minute. I didn't want to be the way I was. I didn't want to be a struggling alcoholic and addict. There was a lot of shame and guilt about my behavior. And things I did or said, the damage that I did. And I didn't even tell my sisters. I didn't tell some friends that I was in recovery. I didn't tell them that, I had problems at home. Why am I going to share this with the world? And I'm like, I got nothing to lose. Again, I didn't want to be the way I was. And that was, like we're supposed to give back in this recovery world or in this world in general. How can I share my gift? Like, I'm really fortunate. Like, why God saved me, I don't know. Why he spared me, I don't know. This whole running thing, that's a gift too. That can be taken away. How long are you going to keep doing these crazy things? Like, as long as I can, it's a gift. It'd be a shame to waste the gift, right? So I ended up, since a lot of people couldn't do the quad thing, couldn't find us or couldn't drive on the roads, I did a 24-hour track run. And so that I was kind of hooked on this fundraising and this community thing. But, again, it's just race and replace. It was a good addiction type thing. And then we moved to Arizona. And before that, I had broken my foot. I drove cross country with a broken foot. And like, man, I was looking forward to running out there. And so as soon as my foot healed, I decided a good way to meet people was to do a 24-hour run in the desert. And so I had Facebook friends or whatever, but I met a bunch of people that I call close friends to this day, 8.5 years ago. And I started doing events out here. So I was doing Javelina every October. I've done that 6 times, Javelina 100. And then I've done, I think, 8 years of the Boston Marathon quad. I finally qualified for the marathon and a bunch of times. So I've been going back home and doing that. And it's been a really cool full circle tradition. And each year the event kind of grows. And I started doing the Mesa Marathon quad out here, and I've done that 6 years. And then I've done some other like virtual things. One of them is called Satan's Sidewalk. It's a 66.6 hour treadmill event. So in essence, you're running on the treadmill for the better parts of 3 days. And, you could do 1 mile or 5 miles or a marathon or stop at 100 miles. But, that word more came into play. So how far can I go? How much can I do without sacrifice?
For people who are bad at math, let's slow down a second because you've said things like 24-hour run. So again, if a marathon takes people between 4 to 6 hours if they're reasonably fit, you're talking about running for 24 hours as much as you can. I've done that before, 24-hour endurance run. I've done a 12-hour endurance run. But then he just said 66.6 hours on the treadmill. Some people don't want to do 20 minutes on the treadmill. And for those, again, who aren't great at math, 24 hours is 1 day, 48 hours is 2 days, then another 18 hours, you're almost doing 3 days on the treadmill. Henry's version of a casual activity is getting wilder and wilder and wilder. Yeah.
So more Swedish fish, more tacos for breakfast, more food. You need more food to keep going longer. But again, it brought the community together. Got on the news. We use the media as a platform to reach people, at a larger scale. It's not like, look at me, I'm on a treadmill, yay, is more about the cause and more about like the human body is really incredible, about using our gifts, about using our voices, and showing people that we can recover, we can do hard things. Like there's a direct correlation between running, ultra running, life, recovery. Like, if we're willing to like take the next right step forward and then another step and another step, eventually we'll get to that finish line or, the end of 66.6 hours or through that hard day at work or through that hard meeting that you didn't want to do. I hate running on the treadmill, like me, like I have a switch on and off. Like I love being outdoors. Like last night I shared with you, I have 5 minutes to get to the trailhead. I'm going to go out and do a sunset hike, a full moon hike. Like
running outside in nature and seeing beautiful things. You take the most amazing pictures. If you're not following Henry on social media, start doing it. Facebook, Instagram. He posts hilarious pictures where it looks like things that he's taking pictures of are like on his head, like the top of a palm tree. but he's taking pictures of rattlesnakes, beautiful sunsets. Henry lives in a beautiful part of the country and he's outside all the time. And that in and of itself, I think, fuels the positive chemicals, right? Being outside, being in nature, being in open spaces. I mean, that really is a powerful drug as well, I think. And it's something that drives me to be outside and be active.
So, so staring at my garage or the peripheral of my garage where I have the treadmill, we were playing, I live in a cul-de-sac, we were playing the game like, oh, I hear a car. Try and guess what color is it?
Because it's behind you and you can't see it. Yeah.
Like, well, we think that was the shadow of a bird. It was a bird. You really don't see much. We joke like the people down around the corner would get Uber Eats 3 times a day. We try to guess what they were ordering. See if you could figure out if you could see a Starbucks bag or whatever. But anyways, it was more of like doing something that I don't want to do. I so much rather, if I went out the garage and looked like this, I can see South Mountain. I'd rather be there. I'd rather just be on the roads than doing this treadmill. But the treadmill forces you to stay in the moment, which is exactly how you should live in general. But yeah, like I just love being outdoors. I was a chef for years and a food service director. I was in the culinary field, and a thing called COVID-19 happened. I don't know if you remember that. That affected part of the country a little bit.
I vaguely remember that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So my account, in essence, got decommissioned, and I was laid off and given a severance package, and I had some forced change. And I'm like, all right, everything happens for a reason. I wasn't super happy in this industry. Indoors, I was burnt out. It wasn't about the food anymore. The culture had changed. The world had changed. And so I literally prayed to God, prayed to the universe. God, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. Please provide me with something that I'm good at, that I can help people, can use my skills. And later that day, somebody had put a post on Facebook like, hey, endurance friends, I have a guiding company. We take people out on hikes, sometimes runs and mountain biking, on tours in the Sonoran Desert. And like everybody else, we were closed, but I'm sold out in November. This is November of 2021. Sold out for November, December, and January, and February. And I need guides. If you're interested, inquire within, send me a private message. So I did. And ooh, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? And you made it sound like it was this impossible job. No offense to her, but it was like, well, you need significant knowledge about the history of Arizona, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tempe. You need a medical background. So I'm thinking am I going to have to put a tourniquet on somebody? What do I need to know? If I'm going to have to splint a broken leg. And you need to be able to talk to people from around the world, around the country, around the world. And you need to have the endurance. I checked a few of the boxes. I'm willing to learn. What else? What do you need to know about this medical thing? And she's like, well, I'd like for you to get CPR and first aid certified. All right. I'm certified. I just need to get recertified. And
that's a 2-hour class or something. That's not
I could do that online, and I can learn the rest of the stuff. And I've been talking to people. I talk to strangers in the supermarket, on an airplane, walking down the street, at the gym.
Yeah, let's stop for a second and talk about that, because that's even what I have to do on this podcast. I have to say, hold on a second, Henry. Let me say something. We're coming up on an hour. This might become a 2-part podcast. Because I don't want this to end, and I got a bunch of stuff I still want to ask Henry. But as you can tell from listening to this podcast, Henry can talk. Henry doesn't have notes over there on the other side. Henry is telling this story. We're almost an hour into it, and he's not slowing down. Henry loves to talk, and most people would say, well, but you can't talk all the time, and you got to learn when to talk and whatever. And my message is alignment. Find a job, find work that fits you, right? And Henry has a job where he gets paid to talk to people, and Henry loves to talk to people. So he loves to be moving. He loves to talk, and he's got a job where he can move and talk. And that's what I want for everybody. That's the imperfectionist. You find how your weaknesses are strengths, and then you turn up the volume. Henry doesn't need to learn to be quiet, and he doesn't need to learn to be still. And then you find situations that reward you for who you are instead of punishing you for who you are, where your weaknesses literally become a strength. And so Henry's desire to be moving nonstop, and Henry's desire to be talking and interacting with people and meeting new people, sort of extreme extroversion, he found the perfect job. And I remember talking to you along the way. when that was starting to happen. And I was so excited because you're like, you talk about this in your book and in your talk, it's actually happening. I got a job. I went from inside doing something I didn't want to do to outside moving and talking to people. And I remember just being like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I hope for everyone. And that's what you achieved.
So yeah, so the food service, when you move up, food cost, labor cost, that's freaking boring. I went to culinary school to play around food, and I wasn't doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I was managing adult personalities, and then, this spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it, happened. And, let's see if it's a good fit for you. Let's see if it's a good fit for us. And it was like, literally like after going out and shadowing, it was literally like after two hikes. All right, you're off on your own, take the training wheels off. And it was really natural. It was a natural transition for me. Like I felt like I could be myself. My passion came out. And you always know a little bit more than you think you know about, the floral, the fauna, coyotes, snakes, whatever it is, the cactus. And I always pick up little things here and there. There's a thing called the internet, books you can learn. And so I did, and there's always more to learn. But, I found that it was really natural and I could be myself and I felt comfortable. I had done a race called the Cocodona 250. So there was an escalation there too, more. And I didn't finish.
That's 250 miles, not 250K. That's 250 miles.
40,000 feet of climbing here in Arizona.
Climbing almost nonstop, yeah.
So, 100 degrees during the day, and, we got down to a low of 28 at night. And I had timed out. I wasn't going to make it to the next checkpoint. And then the next year, I ended up getting this job as a hiking and running guide. And I did a few mountain bike things, but I signed up for the race again. I wanted to know what it was like to finish that. I wanted to get to the next aid station more. It wasn't a selfish thing. I don't think. I just, I really, really enjoyed it. And I felt like I could finish it. I felt like I had the mental tools. And if I just did a little bit more training, and then I stumbled across this job and I was getting paid to train. And I started.
That's huge. Let's stop there for a second, because this is where some people would say, like, yeah, find alignment, but it's got to be off work time, right? It's got to be a hobby. Sure, do things you enjoy on your own time, but they call it work for a reason. But you really found what I call integration, your work. I mean, to get ready for 250 miles, it's called time on your feet, even if you're not moving that fast. So you would be on your feet all day out in the desert, and then you would go run at night in the desert. You were getting paid to train. That's a huge, right? That's a huge advantage over other people who have an office job under the fluorescent lights, and they're trying to train in their off hours.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of time, by choice. I'm just a very busy person. Like you said, on or off. I'm on or I'm off. I'm either sleeping or I'm not. I'm moving.
You're either sleeping or you're running full speed. Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a butterfly. Let's go chase it. So I would go out to these hikes and I would run first, whether it was 2 or 3 miles or 4 miles, depending on how much time I had. I'd do the hike, give the people the best quality experience as possible. That I might run a little bit afterwards. And ultra running is practicing when you're running tired. So I was, that last run after hiking, after taking people out, I'd be tired and mentally pushing through. So I got practical by training, and then I started speaking. I was a keynote speaker, a speaker for different things at schools or businesses or whatever opportunity.
Well, because people are hearing the story, you're on TV. They actually declared a Henry Ward Day, right?
I have a Henry Ward Day. I was living in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, they gave me like a proclamation and stuff. So
people are finding about your story. Now you're inspiring other people, not just in the recovery community, but just in general, like inspiring people to push past their limits, discover what they can do, be more, do more. Yeah.
In essence, when I'm doing this guiding, it's personal. It's 1 or 2 or 4 people. Sometimes we do big corporate hikes. We have multiple guides, and they just break out of this breakout room, and they want to talk amongst themselves. We don't get to talk, but when there's 1 or 2 or 4 people, it's intimate. It's really a private hike. And I don't go into my story too much unless it's like part of their conversation or prompted by their questions. But I get to give people like a private tour, and I get to practice honing my skills, practice speaking. I'm
Yeah, you're getting paid
entertaining.
to train for running, but you're getting paid to train for speaking, right? Like you're practicing, sharing stories, sharing example, telling information. You're on stage at work in an unusual sense, and you're getting more. For me, being a college professor was a huge advantage because it gave me a bunch of hours in front of people that made me better at keynote speaking. And you've got the same thing.
It was all like I was all just like in that world, that same world. Everything was, just in sync. Everything was
Yeah,
good, and it
yeah,
still is. It still is. I've been
yeah.
doing it ever since. But um, yeah, like I'm always satisfied with the goals, with the finish. I never want to be too proud, though. I never want to be too arrogant. I want to stay humble. But again, I want to show people that hard things are achievable, and like you're never, never, never like down and out. You're never, uh, despite all odds, you always have a little bit more inside, and you need to find it, whatever that it is. Um,
Well, and so you started getting speaking opportunities, and then you also wrote some books. Tell us about the books. So you're raising money, so you're helping people that way with your running. Now you're getting paid to train. Now you're speaking about it. You're inspiring other people. But then you started writing books as well. Tell us a little bit about the books, and then I think you wrote a children's book as well.
I did, yeah. So, okay, so I started the first book, and it didn't have a name yet, but I started like back in 2016. 2017, when after I did the Boston Marathon quad, we went to Mexico and I was laid up there. My feet were like ballooned up. So I always wanted to write a book, write a story, and kind of about my story about recovery and kind of how I found running. So I took my phone, and I think I had my tablet too, and I used a Google Doc and just wrote bullet points. I remember being in my in-laws kitchen and just wrote bullet points and then put them in chronological order. And then I started filling in. So each bullet point was either a chapter or something I wanted to talk about. And then, the whole move to Arizona, before that, all of a sudden I did, this, that, a few other things. And like, all right. So I started putting more bullet points and then transitioned over here. And I kept forcing it. I was actually like grabbing my phone and like running and walking, we'll call it multitasking, but I ran the 2017 Boston Marathon quad, and it was really snowy and windy. A lot of people did it, and recovery, blah 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 blah. Blah. And I get back
Yeah,
and I look at it. It's just like I can't even make the words. So I ended up like scrapping that idea. And anytime I force something too, it's not the right time. I've understood that, so I put it down for a while. And then remember that thing COVID I was trying to tell you about over there? Like it kind of gave me more time and everybody else time to do like whatever I wanted to do. Well, it brought my family closer. I ran more. I spent more time with my dog, and
yeah.
I got like a high end. I guess like it was like a business coach, but more like a personal type assistant that helped me, that got this overactive brain, this person in this chair right here in this room, in a chair, 4 to 6 hours a day. I was given 3 shiny balls. I had 100 shiny balls. She gave me 3. And, once I finished with one of those shiny balls, I could pick another one up. So like, okay, I could do that, like a little
Yeah,
kid
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So the main thing, we decided my main goal was to finish the book, and so I did. So it's this one right here. See it? It's Running Without the
First book,
Devil.
Running Without the Devil by Henry Ward. Yep.
Yeah, so it's my story about early years of addiction growing up in Walton, Massachusetts, how hard it was, and then hitting rock bottom and finally surrendering to God, surrendering. So I was powerless over alcohol and drugs and needed help. So I went through treatment, and that's a whole other different thing. But, that obviously changed my life. And then I found running, which helped fill the void, and kind of how running helped me. So it goes up to my story up to about, I guess, up to about 2020.
Yeah.
There's a lot more after that. But then, I started thinking like, there's a lot of people you see like on the corners that might be too far gone. And I think we really need to focus on the youth today. And one of the ways we could do that is education. So I wanted to write a small book about kind of an animated book about addiction. And it's called One Too Many Donuts. So, I want to
Yeah,
tell
one too
kids,
many donuts. What is it? The early signs of addiction or something like that? What's the
yeah,
subtitle?
so it's never too early to learn about the signs of addiction. So
Yeah,
like there's addiction, the kids are addicted. I see them, little kids in the restaurants or wherever mommy and daddy give them the phone and they're addicted to the phone before they can even talk.
yeah,
There's addicted to sugar, fast food, video games, internet, whatever it is, running. No, there's different ways to curb your appetite, such as fitness,
yeah.
running,
Right.
school and everything like that. But I think it's important to nab it in the butt when you're at a younger age,
Yeah,
um, because once you get older, it's a little bit harder.
yeah.
Um, then I wrote
Well,
a
I love
book,
it.
One Inch
Go
at a
ahead.
Time. That was the Cocodona story at Cocodona 250. How do you get to the end? Like sometimes I was moving this fast.
Is that
Um,
the title? 1 inch at a time.
1 inch at a time. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
kind of
that's his story of doing the Cocodona 250, which isn't that old of a race. You did the first one, right? And then and,
yeah,
and then you
the
didn't
first,
finish, and then you did it the next year.
correct.
So also along the way, you got sponsored. I'm wearing my Ink and Burn flamingo shirt that you got from me. You got sponsored along the way. You're wearing the fake tuxedo from Ink and Burn. How did that happen? How did they find you? How did that process go?
So I was like an ambassador for them along with other people, and it was a really cool network of friends. I can truly call them friends or family, like it can burn family. And
Yeah,
then there was an opportunity for to be on the elite team, and Megan, she invited me to be on that. She enjoyed my quirkiness, silliness, my silly photos. Within that Ink and Burn community, we had an ambassador page, and then we would share the products. Like we're the marketing, we can't compete with the Nikes, the Under Armours, the Adidas, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
We're on the ground out there in the desert, or in Boston, running around. And quite often, I'll do like silly little photo op posts or whatever. It's kind
yeah,
of help out their brand in my own little unique way. And
yeah.
she really liked that. And so she invited me to be part of that team. So anytime a new product would come out, she would send me a men's medium singlet or men's large or the shorts, and I still use them today. I have an Incan closet.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've been sponsored by Trail Toes, which is a foot and body cream. It works really well. Very rarely do I have any chafing or blisters, anything like that. I've done a couple crazy races in the snow or the rain or just even running out here in the desert. I very rarely have foot issues. I would never get behind a product if I didn't 100% believe in it. Then I was on the Tailwind team, Tailwind Nutrition. And
Yep.
then recently, 2 years ago, um, as the story goes, I was sponsored by Marathon Sports in Boston for the marathon, and they said I could pick out any pair of sneaker I wanted. It was like a busy, crowded store. I'm like, oh my god, just I'm not a huge shoe guy. If they're comfortable and durable, they're for me. And so like I saw a pair that I liked, try these on. Like we don't actually have these in your size, but we got a little satellite store down the street, a pop up. We can go down there and get them. So we did, and it was a pair of Asics. I ended up seeing the Asics rep there that I knew, small world, and we developed a little bit more of a relationship, and then they invited me to be on their team. So now I'm sponsored by Asics as well. So
So
um,
on this podcast, as I told you, Henry, and everybody knows who listens, we do a not sponsored by, and the joke is I'm not sponsored by anybody. And so who am I not sponsored by this week? So this week we're not sponsored by Pair Eyewear. So Pair Eyewear are glasses. And then they sell these little things called tops, and these ones I have are nice and pink, and you can just pop them on there, and you can pop them off, and you can put some other ones on there as well. I know you'd love that because you love wearing cool stuff. So this week we are not sponsored by Pair Eyewear. Is there anybody you wish you were sponsored by that you're not sponsored by, Henry? Who would be the ultimate sponsor for Henry Ward?
I mean, I'm pretty grateful for what I have. Like I joke that like, oh, I we went to REI a few weeks ago, and like, yeah, I go there. It's like a candy store. Like, I don't need. I realize that
Yeah.
I have everything that I need. I didn't need anything that particular time, but REI would be a good one.
There we
Or
go. Henry Ward, not sponsored by REI. Talk to Henry, not sponsored by
I
REI.
I am fully back on the New England Patriots bandwagon, so that would be a good one too. Uh,
Not sponsored by Tom Brady. Henry Ward,
Tom
not
Brady,
sponsored by Tom
or
Brady.
or the Boston Marathon. Maybe they can.
Ooh.
I don't want to use the word wine me and dine me, but um, yeah, no. I guess maybe
I
those
love it.
three. Again, I'm
I
grateful
love it.
for everything that I have and the sponsors that I do have.
I love it. Well, you said earlier, you said you started your story all the way in Corning, New York. And like you said, that's where they make Corningware. I actually spoke at the high school there to the students and then to the teachers. So I remember being in Corning, New York and being like, wait, I've heard of Corningware my whole life. I have some red Corningware down in the house. And then your story started with Corning, New York. So that's cool. And then also, I wanted to tell everybody who's listening, there's a guy named William Glasser. I learned about him when I was studying psychology. I have my master's in counseling psychology, undergraduate in psychology, and I remember reading a book called Positive Addiction. And his whole idea is we're all looking for something and we're all addicted to something sort of on some level. The only thing that makes addiction bad is what it does to your life, right? So if you're addicted to something positive, your life will be better than if you're addicted to something negative. Addiction itself isn't necessarily the problem, is basically his point. And to your point, Henry, some of us are more addictive than others, right? Some of us want to go farther. Some of us want to do more. Some of us never want to do a small or reasonable amount of anything, right? And so he wrote a book about that. So if you're interested in this idea, this isn't something Henry made up. This isn't something I made up. A lot of these people who are discovering this, again, it's the imperfectionist mindset. It's that you don't have to stop being that kind of person. You didn't choose that personality. That's just the way some of us are. I'm about to go golfing after this. And I started golfing this year after 25 years off because I was raising my kids. And I've probably golfed, well, not probably, I've golfed at least 85 times this year. I didn't start golfing a little bit. I went from doing ultra running and Ironman triathlons to doing ultra golfing. How many holes can I play in a day? How much better can I get? How can I improve? I'm obsessed with golfing now. I'm always obsessed with something. I just have been less obsessed with running and those kinds of things, although I did just run a marathon with my daughter. I haven't stopped doing that. But that idea of positive addiction is a really good one. So Henry, how do they follow you? What are your handles on like Instagram, Facebook? How do they find you?
Yeah, so it's I guess it's Chef Henry Ward at Facebook, or just look up Henry Ward. I'm in Arizona, and then my tag in Instagram is I fell and the ground caught me. And that's pretty much where you'll find me.
Yeah,
And can I just add one more thing? Like, if anything
yeah,
consumes you, like, I run or I train before my wife gets up or my son gets up. I usually go out like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and come back and make sure that I'm present for my family. Like, that's my number one focus. Like, if that's consuming you and you're putting everything else to the side, neglecting your family, like, that's no good. That could
yeah.
lead to divorce or a broken home. Yeah, and honestly, I need to make sure that I'm not running away from something too. I always take my
Mm,
head on. Um, if that's my main focus, then I'm running away from my problems, then those problems are still going to be there, and that's just added stress. So
yeah. Where can people find the books? If somebody wants a copy of the book, the kids' book, or your other two books, where do they find those?
www.amazon.com. That's the only place. Or
Yeah,
they could hit me up and I could send them a personalized copy too.
sure, sure. Okay, so go to Amazon, get again, Running Without the Devil or 1 Inch at a Time or One Too Many Donuts. Those are the books. What's the next big thing, Henry? Do you have another quad coming up? Do you have something even wilder than that? Do you have something beyond 250? What's next for Henry?
I always think of more, right? But no, if I think I'm gonna jump in the Phoenix Marathon. I haven't registered yet, but this Sunday I was released from work. I was supposed to work and just found that I'm not working, and I'd like to try to get a Boston qualifier out of the way. And then December 1st, I'm running a 24-hour treadmill event. And then in January, I'm doing a 12-hour event here on a track. And I'm doing the Buckeye Marathon. And then February, I have the Mesa Marathon quad, I think it's year 7. And then April is the Boston Marathon quad. And that should be enough for a while. Then I typically have been doing quality over quantity for the summers. I might do a timed race, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, Henry. This has been fantastic. And also, one of my favorite jokes lately is people go online and they say, I just started working at this company and everybody told me to sign up for the 401k. And they said everybody's doing it. And, I don't even think I can run that far, but I guess I'll sign up for it. And what I realized is that's about 240 miles. And you've run a 401k. You've run 250 miles. So even that's meant to be an outrageous joke, right? Oh, I don't even think I can run a 401k. And you've run 401k, just to put that in perspective. So it's seen as just like a ridiculous joke that obviously no one's going to ever run a 401k. And you've run more than a 401k. So I think that's
on the treadmill.
On the treadmill.
Going nowhere fast.
Yeah, what's your number when you did the 66.6 on the treadmill? What was your final mileage?
I did 254 miles one year, and then the next year it was like low 200s. I just stopped. I was done.
Yeah. Well, my one daughter is on the same path. She did her first marathon with me last weekend, and she's already started asking about ultras. There was a 50K. She wasn't ready, but there was a 50K in Winston-Salem around a lake on a pretty nice trail, like a good way to start. And she just wasn't ready to jump into it 2 months after her first marathon. But she definitely has what's an ultra? How far is that? Now, how does that work? So we'll see how much she gets into it. But she's like that with knitting and a lot of the other things she does. She goes hardcore on stuff. And so it'll be interesting to see how far she ends up taking it.
We call it the ultra bug.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one of those every weekend out here. So if she wants to come out, you want to come out, you're more than welcome to. Maybe I'll do it with you.
Maybe we'll come out and try to run some of the quad with you, be your pacers for a little while.
That'd be amazing. Either Mesa in February or come out to Boston.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining the Imperfectionist Podcast. My name is David Rendall. Like I said, this might end up being a 2-part episode with Henry Ward. He's an ultra runner. He's an author. He's a speaker. He is inspiring people all over the world. He's got his own day in Tempe, Arizona. He's sponsored by multiple organizations, and I'm not sponsored by Pair Eyewear. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's helped you understand how you can discover the strength hiding inside of your weaknesses, how you can find the right fit for yourself, not only in your outside of work activities, but at your inside of work activities, your career activities. Henry's getting paid to train for running, but he's also getting paid to train for speaking. If you're interested in an inspiring speaker for your next event, bring out Henry. I've definitely recommended him to friends and other people hiring speakers when I go do events. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time on the Imperfectionist Podcast.